So this morning I'm going to go over a few things that the Christian preachers will not look at or will even hide to protect their false narratives. But this is very, very important information that you're going to need to write down, save, keep, to protect you from the deceit of the false churches. All the churches today are false churches that have their roots in the Catholic Church. And I'm going to address exactly what happened to the Jerusalem congregation. I don't like to use the word church. It is just like many words in the English language, it is corrupt. I'm just going to use congregations for the Jerusalem congregation and the 7 congregations in Asia Minor. What happened to those congregations? I'm going to show you what happened to them, and they were dispersed and murdered. And that was it. What came up after them was actually something that was before them. What came after them was the instituting of the Abomination of Desolation as Christianity. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, here in hermeneuticsstackexchange.com, you can look up on there who was the Abomination of Desolation, Caligula's proposed statue in the temple. Mark 13:14, and similarly in Matthew 25:15, not Jesus, Yehoshua. I have over and over and over and over again pointed out to everyone that Jesus is false. His name was Yehoshua, his name is Yehoshua, and his name shall always be Yehoshua. No other name is acceptable. When you see the abomination that causes desolation standing where it does not belong, let the reader understand. Then let those that are in Judea flee to the mountains. And the mountains were in the south, in the Sinai Peninsula. A leading theory is that this refers to the Roman standards being placed in the ruins of the temple after Titus destroys Jerusalem in 70 CE. And as I have pointed out to you, that is not the case. Although Titus did indeed place an abomination of desolation on the corner of the temple, but that's not what he was talking about. Because you see, folks, if they would have waited until Titus destroyed Jerusalem and killed everybody to flee to the mountains, well, that would absolutely make no sense now, would it? Of course not. But and I pointed this out over and over for years about Caligula, the man of sin. There is evidence that Caligula wanted to place a statue of himself in the temple 30 years earlier. He sent Petronius to Syria to lead an army into Judea and to force the Jews to accept this statue. They even had the statue inside the building, and the Jews summarily threw it out. Now, it doesn't say that here, but if you dig hard enough, you'll find that that is the truth. The Jews were getting ready to resist this imposition. Luckily, Caligula died in 41 CE before this order was carried out. Perhaps this is evidence that the Gospels of Mark and Matthew were written at some time during the period between Caligula's edict in 39 and his death in 41. By contrast, Luke's description in these events in Luke 21 verses 20 through 24, which was probably composed using Mark's Gospel, seemed to probably. Well, Luke was, he heard it too. I don't know what in the world they're trying to accomplish here by muddying the water. But anyway, seems to clearly indicate that Jerusalem's fall, so that puts the composition of Luke, Acts, later than 70. Once again, folks, makes absolutely no sense what they're saying. Caligula ordered his own graven image as a Zeus. He claimed that he was a god. To be put inside all the synagogues in the realm and in the temple. And of course the Jews would by force throw it out before they had it set up. But as you plainly could read, standing where it does not belong, or sitting where it does not belong. We can go there and see if it's see exactly what it says. Mark 13. Mark. I was beginning to wonder if I was going to be able to do a video this morning, because for a while there my download speed was not even at 1. And when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in where it is not necessary, where it ought not, let him that reads understand. Let them that are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them that is on the housetop not go down to the house, neither let them that it's bad days to come and run for your lives. So let's then go to, while we're at it, 2 Thessalonians 2. And we'll see what Paul says. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Moshiach, or our Master, Yehoshua, not Jesus. As I pointed out in my previous video, Iesus is an honor of Zeus, or Zeuspiter, Jupiter. Okay? Therefore, you cannot equate Iesus with Yehoshua. It is not the same. Yehoshua, the name, does not honor Zeus, who is Satan, as I proved to you in the previous video. Yehoshua honors Jehovah. Jehovah, the one, the Hashem Mephorish. The same Hashem Mephorish that the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church rejected, blasphemed, and slandered that name in the Judenzahl. And I will get there in a little bit, but I'm going to pull it up. Maybe I'll just go over just a little bit right here. The city of Wittenberg contains a Judenzahl from 1305 on the facade of the Stadtkirche, where Martin Luther preached. It portrays a rabbi looking under the sow's tail other Jews drinking from its tits, an inscription reading Rabbini Shem HaMeforesh. And you can read the rest of it. They rejected any name that is associated with the Hashem Meforesh. They did. And they went for Zeuspater, who is Jupiter, and Zeuspater they're calling Zeus the Father. Now, I should be done with that. Gaius Caligula bore a grudge for being ignored only by the Jews in this respect, honoring him as divine. Oh, I was going to go to, hold on, I got to finish this. Gather together unto him, that you not be soon shaken in mind, or be troubled neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by the letter as from us, as the day of the Moshiach is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall, except before, no man, it doesn't say that the day shall not come, it just says before there come a defection, a revolt, not a falling away. Defection, a revolt. That is the revolt that is talked about right here in this particular, where it says Jews prepare to fight Caligula. Alright? The Great Jewish Revolt. Look it up, study it, and realize that you have been deceived. That man of sin be revealed, the son of destruction. Destruction of what? The man who, by his edict, thereby causing the Jewish revolt, caused the destruction of Jerusalem. And what did he do? He gives a description of this man who lies in opposition, and he exalts himself upon everyone that is called a god, as they say, a theos, or that is worshipped, so that he, as an idol, sits in the temple of Jehovah, showing himself that he is the replacement. And who did the Gentiles replace? Jehovah, the one that they hated, the one that they despised, blasphemed, slandered. They replaced him with Jupiter, Zeuspater, and Jesus. Remember you not, when I was with you, I told you these things, and you know that that which held might be revealed in its time, because the mystery of iniquity is already at work. In other words, it was starting right then and there. It was not something starting in the future, as modern-day Christianity says, because if they were to believe what Paul said, then they would realize that their current religion is the end result, and their current religion was the one who the Moshiach would destroy with the brightness of his coming. So they changed the narrative to avoid fingers being pointed at them. Because you see, Cyril, he said that it's going to wait until the time the Roman Empire comes to an end. But Paul said the mystery of iniquity is already at work, which means it was already beginning right then and there. So it wouldn't be long. Wouldn't be very long, but a few short years afterwards that would culminate into the destruction of Jerusalem. Only just now, hold back until it becomes from the middle. And then shall the lawless be revealed. That lawlessness it's not talking about a person will be destroyed with it just says that lawless to be revealed who Yehoshua will consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. All right, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with every power, might, and strength. The greatest of power that a human could ever have, what is it? It's nuclear power. Yep. Didn't think about it that way, did you? It's undeniable. And a sign and falsehood. A wonder of falsehood. A wonder of falsehood in a time of all power. The governments of this world claim to have power over the weather, and some people absolutely make that claim. In fact, the CIA back in, when was it? Back in the 70s or 80s, the CIA claimed that they had the power to cause lightning to strike. I don't know if I can find it. I saw it the other day. CIA power to cause lightning. Yeah. Look here. Do you see this? The CIA once considered using lightning to assassinate. This is in Popular Mechanics magazine, folks. To assassinate people. The Central Intelligence Agency once considered the idea of using lightning as a weapon system. In the late 1960s, an unknown scientist proposed a service use lightning strikes as a weapon that would leave little or no evidence, making it difficult to identify the U.S. government as the perpetrator. The CIA, despite always being interested in covert weapons, never developed the idea, probably. Or maybe they did. If they did, they're not going to tell you. And several months back, I did a video showing all the atrocities that the U.S. government and its three-letter agencies have done to people, including mind control. I've proven it. And then the strangest thing happened that as soon as I did that video, just days after that segment on that website disappeared. I wonder why. If this was proposed, folks, they have done incredible things. Look, you know this. The pitch which Forbes discovered in the declassified CIA files involved using artificial leaders of thin metal wires to cause discharges to occur when we desire them. The wires, a few thousandths of an inch in diameter, would unfurl from aircraft or rockets launched into the atmosphere. Then once lightning occurred, it would be drawn to the metal wire and strike the ground where the wire terminated. The idea seemed to be that the wire would be close enough to fry whomever the CIA wanted to assassinate with 300 million volts of electricity. You see, the end result of the Great Revolt and the Abomination of Desolation being set up is all power, signs and wonders that are occurring right now as we speak. And one of those marvels is the fact that I can transfer this video through Wi-Fi from this laptop to my cell phone. And from my cell phone to a tower that is 2 miles away from me, and post it on YouTube so that everyone with internet access can watch this video. You want to discount that it is what Paul is talking about? You want to do that? Because, see, at the time of the end is where it says right here, the lawless, they are now claiming men can be women. They're claiming that men can get pregnant. You can go on YouTube and you can see the arguments going back and forth. Absolute lawlessness. Not only that, you have presidents' sons getting away with what would be considered treason 200 years ago, or even 100 years ago. Lawlessness. Absolute lawlessness. And as I pointed out in one of Paul's writings, talking about how women gave up their natural use, and that's happening today, right now. And the monkeypox is as a result of probably was government spread, but it was, once again, just like HIV, spread to the homosexual crowd. Lawlessness. And this lawlessness, the Moshiach will consume with the spirit of his mouth, and he will destroy with his brightness of his coming. And also the one who sits at the imperial seat of Satan. Also coming is after the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that are going to die. They will be destroyed utterly. Why? Because they received not the love of the truth that they might be saved. Instead, they are all consumed by the media, they will not grow anything to eat themselves. They are beholden to the grocery stores. They have moved themselves far, far away from the farmlands which produce food to eat. They have no longer retained the ability to farm, to forage, to be herdsmen, flock raisers. And if you are one of these people, this is talking about you. You're so absorbed with this world and this life that you will not be ready to be saved. The love of the truth. They spat on, they ridiculed, they mocked the Hashem Mephoresh, the explicit name. And they replaced that name with Zeus-Pater, or Gaut. Gaut has Krishna, Shiva, whatever national idol that they have. And so, yes, you get a little different point of view here. In 2 Thessalonians 2, Paul seemed to imply that after rebellion, the man of lawlessness will have himself worshipped as a god in the temple. Yeah. Caligula and his proposed statue in the 40s seem to fit the description better than Titus' standard in 70. And Paul goes on to mention that somebody is holding this event back. This could well be Petronius, who sources say was delaying putting up Caligula's statue in the temple as he knew what trouble it would cause. Now you know how deceived you are, don't you? After reading this, it's not just me. All right. So, Antiochus 4. Epiphanes is blasphemy. He calls himself, that's a way of calling himself a god. So this occurred beforehand. The king of Syria captured Jerusalem in 167 BCE and desecrated the temple by offering the sacrifice of a pig on the altar of Zeus, the Abomination of Desolation. And this is at the University of Chicago website. They freely admit that Zeus is the Abomination of Desolation. Why then do you Christians with Latin languages worship the Abomination of Desolation? And since the English churches and the Germanic churches all have their roots in the Latin Catholic Church, by default they worship the same Abomination of Desolation. In seeking to prohibit Judaism and Hellenize the Jews, Antiochus forbade their religious practices and commanded that copies of the Torah be burned, all of which is related by Josephus and the Antiquities of the Jews. You got the number right here. And this is all foretold in the book of Daniel. All right? Now, take a look at this. Why historians believe Titus sacrificed a pig to the ensigns in the temple in AD 70. Now, when you see the abomination of desolation standing where it ought not be, that obviously was, as Paul pointed out, there was a time delay by Petronius. For what reason? To give the congregation in Jerusalem enough time to flee to the mountains. The ritual sacrifice of a pig, sheep, or an ox was customarily performed for land purification ceremonies so as to cleanse the past and future sins committed on that land. This is, of course, by the Romans and the Greeks. A temple was destroyed, as was the case in 70 CE. The site of the temple must be purified by the Zuvatorilla, the ritual sacrifice of an ox, sheep, or a pig. It was performed 1 year earlier in 69 by Vespasian, of all people, for the purification of the temple to Jupiter Zeus, or Zeuspiter. Juno and Minerva in Rome, where the temple burned due to the civil war, the Great Revolt, during the year of the 4 Caesars. Now they're saying, well, if Vespasian did it, as a part of that, at the destruction of the temple in Rome, Vespasian's son, Titus, would have also been expected to do the same thing during the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in the year 70 CE. As the Suavteltura, I can't pronounce that, was the customary sacrifice to purify a temple after it had been destroyed. Recall that the Romans instituted their sacrifices while the Jewish temple was aflame, a fact strongly hinted that a pig was sacrificed as a part of this ritual sacrifice at the time, which proves that Titus, well, okay, so the Zeus is the abomination of desolation, Zeuspiter, and Caligula initially began the whole process, and it was not finished by Titus, but it was finished by Hadrian. It continued, the abomination of desolation continued to make desolate. And let's see here. I'll get to this part in a minute. The temple of Jupiter, Optimus Maximus, also known as the temple of Jupiter Capitolinus. Alright, whatever. Temple of Jupiter, the best and the greatest, was the most important temple in ancient Rome, located on the Capitoline Hill. It is one of the 7 hills of Rome. It was surrounded by the Area Capitolina, a precinct where numerous shrines and altars and statues and victory trophies were displayed. The first building was the oldest large temple in Rome. Like many temples in central Italy, shared features with Etruscan architecture. It was traditionally dedicated in 509 BCE, and in 83 BCE was destroyed by fire and replaced in Greek style, completed in 69 BCE, and there to be 2 more fires, etc. Alright? So, let's go look at this one. Aelia Capitolina. And this was the one that was placed in Jerusalem. They replaced the holy city that they burned, Jerusalem, with Aelia Capitolina. It was a Roman colony founded during the Emperor Hadrian's trip to Yehuda in 129 to 130, centered around Jerusalem, and it had been totally razed, which had been almost totally razed at the siege in 70 CE. The foundation of the Aelia Capitolina and the construction of the temple to Jupiter at the site of the former temple may have been one of the causes for the outbreak of the Bar Kokhba revolt. You think? Oh, there was another revolt. There was yet another revolt in 132. Aelia Capitolina remained as official name until late antiquity, and the Aelia part name transliterated to Elia, which was used by the Umayyad Caliphate. Aelia came from Hadrian's nomen Gentile. Aelius, while Capitolina meant that the new city was dedicated to Jupiter Capitolinus. And as you can see, there is old Jupiter right there. And there is the Capitolinus, or Capitoline Hill in Rome. And as I have pointed out several times, that the buildings in Washington, D.C. and many other European places of government are built in the same architecture and design of Jupiter, Zeus's buildings, as you can see right here. It looks a lot like the Supreme Court building, parts of the Capitol building, and even the White House. While Capitolina means new city, was dedicated to Jupiter Capitolinus, to whom a temple was built on the Temple Mount. So this temple here, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, was built by the Romans as a temple to Jupiter, Zeuspiter, or Zeus. And it still sits there to this day. So the Muslims, they also worship Satan. They may call him a different name, but since they call that a mosque, they worship Satan as well. And indeed, their mosques are, oddly enough, and this also, by the way, this Zeus's temple is now the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. What? You see this? To whom, look, was dedicated to Jupiter Capitolinus, to whom a temple was built. This is now the so-called Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This thing was built in honor of Jupiter, the Abomination of Desolation. How about it, Christians? You and the Muslims. As I've pointed out many times, that Islam is just another Protestant religion. That's all it is. So this picture right here that you see, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, as they say, is the abomination, is another abomination of desolation. It is a temple of the abomination of desolation. The Latin name Aelia is a source for much later Arabic term Elia, the 7th century Islamic name for Jerusalem. You see? Wow. Now, Jerusalem, once heavily rebuilt by Herod, was still in ruins following the decisive siege of the city as part of the First Jewish-Roman War, the Great Rebellion, in 70 CE. According to Eusebius, the Jerusalem congregation, no, not with a cross, but the Jerusalem congregation was scattered twice, and in 70 and 135. With the difference is that from 70 to 130, the bishops of Jerusalem had evidently Jewish names, whereas after 135, the bishops of Aelia Capitolina appear to be Greeks. And there, my friends, is when the congregation of Jerusalem died. It was no more. They were scattered to the winds. Now, whatever happened to the 7 churches, the 7 congregations, I should say, in Asia Minor? Right? This is by just another Jim, whoever he is. So let's go down and look at this right here. The 7 churches, the 7 congregations would have been Armenian congregations. Why have the congregations of Pergamon, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, Laodicea, Ephesus, and Smyrna disappeared? Want to know the answer? It's not that they simply faded away, they were murdered. Now, when the Christians falsely interpret, the gates of hell can never prevail against that congregation. And they turn it into their own false usage. But what Yehoshua was referring to, the gates of hell or death or the grave, will never prevail against that congregation, whether it be the one in Jerusalem before 135 or whether it be the 7, especially but not exclusively Philadelphia. It is the gates of the grave. They will be killed. Now, wait a minute, Henry, you might say. To him that overcomes will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone. And in a stone a new name written, which no man knows, saying that he receives it. All right, what does that have to do with anything? Well, let's get a little bit closer to the truth here, folks. Let's look at the most blessed congregation of all of them all, Philadelphia. I know your works. I have set before you an open door, and no man can shut it. You have a little strength. You have kept my word, and you have not denied my name. And as I have pointed out many times, that using the word Jesus, Jesus, instead of Yehoshua, when you do this, you are guilty of denying his name. I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, of Zeus, of Jupiter, who uses the so-called Church of the Holy Sepulchre, aka Jupiter's temple as their place of worship. Christians. So it is Christians who worship at the Synagogue of Satan. Checkmate, I got you. You didn't see this one coming, did you? Which they claim that they are Jews, but they're not Jews. They're Gentiles. Those people who worship at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Jupiter's temple. The Zeusbiter's temple. Gotcha. It's Christians. They are liars. I will make them to come down and worship before your feet to know that I have loved you. When? When the time when they are raised from the dead, the time when the gates of hell will not prevail against them, and they will be allowed. It says, now, why does it say, I will also keep you from the hour of temptation? If you read the last words, you'll understand it. Which has come upon all the world to try them upon the earth. Well, those people at that time could never live long enough to go through that hour of temptation. So who is going through the hour of temptation? Or what age is? Right here it says, he that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the congregations. And there is your answer. You have an ear? Yes. Then you better listen. Why? Because it applies to you. Whether you are one of those who align with the people who worship at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Christians, which incidentally is the Synagogue of Satan, as I have just proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt, right here and now, or whether you are a Jew. Now, before I go, if you are rooted in either Lutheranism or Catholicism, you worship at the Synagogue of Satan, because Satan hates the Creator Jehovah. He hates his name, the Hashem Mephoresh, which is and see, when the Jews, they say Hashem, they are referring to the Mephoresh, the explicit name. And what did you Christians do? You followers of Constantine. You put this horrible, blasphemous, unforgivable graven image on your houses of worship. By blaspheming the Jews and blaspheming their Hashem Mephoresh, that makes you of Satan. And this so-called Judensal, as they say, was put up there by the Catholics in the 1200s. And Martin Luther, the father of all Protestantism, approved and described exactly what he thought about the Hashem Mephoresh and about the Kodesh, the holy people. And it is recognized that in 1988, on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the Kristallnacht, debate sprung up about the monument, which resulted in the addition of a sculpture recognizing that during the Holocaust, 6 million Jews were murdered under the sign of the cross. So you cross carriers and cross worshippers are guilty of the murder of 6 million Jews. And in Martin Luther's book, the Von Shem, they pronounced the words incorrectly in Hebrew. Should be Hashem Mephoresh. In that book. And what... this is a Christian book. Bastardizes the explicit name, the Hashem Mephoresh. So, you Christians, you are not of the Jerusalem congregation. You are not even of the 7 congregations in Asia Minor. You are of the Synagogue of Satan.